The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Eric Frandsen, Ajay, Salvesen. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on a Wednesday, whether it's on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, or streaming online, 1069thefan.com. Thanks for joining us, or even if you're listening to this after the fact that we're on the air on our podcast, which you can find on 1069thefan.com or in a lot of other places wherever you can find podcasts. Just search for the Full Court Press, search Eric Frandsen or Ajay Salvesen, and you'll find us. We'll be there.
Or in this case and in this hour, search Ethan Dursteler, which, by the way, as Ethan Dursteler of the NFL joins us, Ethan, you had your first podcast come out. Can you kind of introduce us, or I guess the Full Court Press World to your podcast and how we can find it and what it contains?
Sure. So the podcast is called More Than a Game with Ethan Dursteler. Our first interview was this past week with Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox. It was it was cool. We had him on. He came. He talked sports. When are the Olympics coming back to Utah? What else did we touch on? We touched on social justice in sports. What moves he felt the Jazz should make. And
Ethan asked a great question at the very first of the show. That these political guys, you say, oh, are they really sports fans? Or are they just there to groove the public and spread it out like, hey, yes, I am passionate about it. And Lieutenant Governor Cox wasn't really offended by the question, but he's like, yeah, I'm a passionate fan. Yeah, I care about the Jazz. Yeah, I love football. I love watching our teams play in the state of Utah. And you could just kind of tell by the tone of his voice, and he explained why. He used to be this he said he used to be a short and slow back when he was a kid, but he was a mean church ball player. He loves sports with an absolute passion, which was really cool to hear him talk about that.
Yeah, it was cool to have him on. I thought he was fantastic, very gracious with his time. And hopefully we'll be able to have him on in the future. The idea behind the podcast is kind of to have, different political figures come on and talk sports. A lot of them, as you know, like to talk about things other than politics. So it's fun to have them on, have them kick back, relax a little bit, and talk about something that isn't their day job. And it's something we can all, rally around and something we all enjoy. So I was appreciative to him for coming on, and hope everybody will tune in and give it a listen.
What's your podcast called? Where can people find it?
You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. It's More Than a Game with Ethan Dursteler. So you can type in Ethan Dursteler. You can type in More Than a Game. Both of those will pull it up.
That's awesome, and we're excited to see what you bring apart with that and the guests you have on. And should have a good one next week as well. Well, just some of them will be a good one. Eric, it is our NFL hour. The NFL finally is beginning. The biggest question, will Tom Brady win ring number 7? And who's better? Is it Belichick or is it Brady? That is the biggest question in the NFL.
Right.
That's what everyone cares about. No one cares about anything else.
Well, I don't know about that, but that is certainly one of the big questions is, was Tom Brady a product of Bill Belichick, or was Bill Belichick successful because of Tom Brady? And I think that we'll find that both of them are successful
in their own way,
driven people that are going to find some success.
Yeah.
I think it's unfair to say, no matter what happens this year, it's unfair to crucify the person who may or may not fail, right? Just because they were together for so long. Like, if Tom Brady has a bad season, it could be because he's not with Bill Belichick, but it could also be because he's 43. So I think it's tough to make this the end-all, be-all in the argument, is it Tom or is it Bill? But it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to see them play against each other.
Hey, Ethan, for you as an NFL employee, based on what your position is, I remember texting you, I think yesterday, about what your schedule's like, and you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot it was Tuesday. I've been absolutely swamped. What is Ethan's life in the NFL right now like in regards to your duties and priorities as we get ready for the 2020-21 season?
Well, I mean, to most listeners, it's going to be really boring, right? Because not a lot of it has to do with the actual playing of the game. It's very much just like any other office job. But, our concern right now, our biggest concern, obviously, is making sure that we can play the season in the midst of a pandemic. So a lot of the work that we're doing is in relation to working with different state and local authorities to A, make sure that the games can happen, and then B, make sure that we do host the games in a way that's safe for the community, while providing a high quality entertainment value to the local communities that do a lot for the league. So a lot of it is working with different government officials. A lot of my time this week has been spent coordinating with different team government affairs officials on collaborating around content that we can push out, to make sure that everybody knows how hard we are trying to do this safely in the midst of the pandemic. So lots of coordinating, working with 32 different clubs, right, to make sure that the season, kicks off right on Thursday, and just making sure that the 101st season is safe and a lot of fun.
Yeah. What do you get most excited about? I mean, I know as an employee, but even as a fan of the NFL, what do you get most excited about in general about NFL season starting?
Well, I mean, I'm a fan first, right? So as an employee, it's like, oh yeah, we make money, but as a fan, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just the game of football, right? I'm a huge football fan. It's been part of my life forever, and just having the sport around, being able to watch the best in their field do it. The other stuff, the peripheral stuff, doesn't matter to me. Just being able to watch the game and really, learn and watch these guys practice their craft is exciting to me, and I think it's an absolute blast. I can't express how excited I am for the season to kick off tomorrow.
One of the things that's besides the whole Tom Brady, Bill Belichick thing, that's going to be interesting this year, the Kansas City Chiefs. I keep what's the right term? Keep finding myself baffled by how often I hear or read in different publications about a dynasty in the making.
Yeah,
Great.
that needs to stop.
They won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that needs to stop.
That's great, but we're so quick to try to declare a dynasty when they've only won one. When they've won 3 or 4, they've been to multiple Super Bowls, let's start to talk about it. But there's still a lot of excitement about that Kansas City franchise. Not a big market, but they've got some great talent and a lot of excitement coming in, and they're going to get things started off right tomorrow night when they host the Texans. So a lot of excitement about some young superstars in the NFL, a real face that Patrick Mahomes, how he's maybe bringing additional people. Is that possible, that he's bringing new people, introducing them to the NFL?
Yeah, I think so. I think, also it helps that he's an African-American, and so he's a young, successful African-American quarterback, of which there haven't been a lot in the history of the NFL, right? So he like you said, Eric, opens up an entirely new fan base that the NFL has had a hard time tapping into in the past. So, his demographic, just who he is as a person, he's really personable. He's down to earth, other than the fact that he just bought his fiance an 8-carat diamond ring to propose with. But he seems like it's a down to earth guy. He's really chill. He's happy to stay in Kansas City, and I think that is really what kind of separates him from other superstars, not just in the NFL, but in the American sports landscape. Right? Is that he signed a long-term contract with the team that drafted him in a small market. He's committed to helping them win. He's committed to doing all he can for the city of Kansas City in the state of Missouri. And so I think he's just really relatable and again, down to earth, and people enjoy watching him play and enjoy supporting him. He's an easy guy to root for.
One of the other things that's exciting for this upcoming season is that there are 2 new state-of-the-art arenas. I mean, every now and then there'll be a new facility or there'll be a remodel, but this year there's
and they're gorgeous.
2
oh my heavens,
amazing
beautiful
arenas, one in Los Angeles and one in Las Vegas. From an NFL point of view, what does that mean for the NFL brand when there's a new arena like that comes online?
I think it's really important for us because it's the the fruits of working closely with a community that's supportive of the NFL and supportive of a team, right? So Los Angeles, for example, worked incredibly hard to help the Cranky family and the Los Angeles Rams organization and the Chargers organization build that stadium. And so it's really just, it's a show of us working with our fans and with partners to really give our fans the best experience possible. Same with the Las Vegas Stadium. So it does a lot for the brand. It does a lot for the local community. Both of these stadiums were built for the most part with private funds, which NFL teams have gotten a lot of flack in the past for being the beneficiary of different bonds and or tax dollars. So I think that these 2 stadiums in particular, which like you mentioned, Eric, are truly state of the art, are truly like the best facilities that you can get when it comes to not just football, but concerts, just an entertainment venue. They do a lot for our brand, and they do a lot for the communities that they're in, which is important to us.
Ethan, who will host the Super Bowl first, Los Angeles or Las Vegas?
Ooh, I don't know. I was purely speculative.
Yeah,
I would say
no,
Vegas,
obviously.
right? If you think Vegas has the draft in 2021 or 2022, so they have the draft. It's kind of a pre-run to see how well the city can do when hosting a major NFL event, and I'm sure they're going to do a fantastic job. And if that goes well, then I don't see a reason why there couldn't be a Super Bowl anytime soon.
In Las Vegas, that'd be so awesome.
It'd be close, right? I mean, people from Utah that have never had access to
that
the
would
Super
be
Bowl.
amazing.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people in Logan actually that have bought season tickets for the Raiders. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I know some people down in St. George who it's a business investment to buy.
Why
seats.
not? Be crazy
it-
not to.
It's not only for football, but if they do concerts there, and you have first opportunity to
Oh,
buy
yeah.
tickets when there's different events that take place in that venue. So
And it's Vegas, right? So there's going to be events. There's going to be, it's going to be a heck of a venue. And I think, Lieutenant Governor Cox even mentioned when we were talking to him that the Utah market played a role in the NFL deciding to bring a team to Las Vegas because they knew that there was so many avid sports fans in Utah that would buy season tickets licenses that would support the team, and that played a role in the team deciding to relocate to Vegas.
That's
okay,
awesome.
so this kind of leads me to my next question. With a place like Vegas, where it's a destination location, the Raiders may have a hard time developing their own strong fan base. Where if you're follow the Green Bay Packers, it's going to be really enticing in late November to go to Las Vegas, or if there happen to be a game like that in that time of year. But in other venues, especially northern states, to come to Las Vegas to get out of the cold and have a traveling fan base that goes there. Certainly Arizona has seen this with their baseball team, that they often see more or larger fan bases of their traveling opponents than they do for their home teams. ESPN recently put together an interesting list saying that the headline is, will the 2020 NFL season see the death of home field advantage? And it goes through saying that really over the last several years there really hasn't been much of a home field advantage in the NFL. Part of it is just travel related. How teams get to and from venues are better. Teams nutrition is makes a big difference. Mental space, there's the coaching and everything that goes into preparing a player to play a game. So home field advantage may not really mean as much anymore in the NFL. I thought that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, especially this year, right? With there's only 6 teams that will definitely have fans. So if there's no fans, even if you're pumping in fan noise, that's probably going to play a significant role in the continued disintegration of home field advantage, I would think. But I don't know. Like you mentioned with Las Vegas, you did say it's a destination town, and I think that obviously the league takes that into consideration when they're picking markets. I think that we were really impressed by, and the Raiders organization more so was really impressed by the Golden Knights and their fan base that they were able to establish really quick when the NHL went to Las Vegas. You go to those games and you watch them on TV, and the Knights have as avid a fan base as any team in the NHL, right? So
Yeah,
people
true.
were impressed by that. They figured, if we can put a winning product on the field, we're going to tap into that same fan base that the Knights were able to tap into. And so I think that played a significant role in deciding to do that. But also, like you mentioned, it is a destination town, and that's fun. You have opposing teams' fans that come, and it'll be a cool experience for everybody that comes.
Yeah, I actually think that'd be kind of fun, honestly.
Yeah.
You go to a game, and say if you're in Las Vegas, you go to those games, you're there for the Raiders, but you're going to see large swaths of the opponent of fan base that's going to be there. Where if you went to Kansas City, it's probably mostly all going to be Chiefs fans.
It's all red, right? All red in Kansas City. I think it may be even similar to when we have the games in London, right? Where even if it's the Jaguars and the Colts playing, you have jerseys from all 32 NFL teams because these people live in London. They can't really go and see, teams in the United States play. And, Vegas, while a central location and a big destination city, is kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's a lot of folks that live in the surrounding areas, Utah, northern Nevada, northern Arizona, that don't really have the opportunity to go to NFL games very often, but are avid fans. So you may see people just going to the stadium to watch NFL football in wearing a team's jersey that's not even playing in the game. So I think it'll just be more, kind of an ode to the game of football, an opportunity for people that haven't had the opportunity to go to an NFL game before to be able to go and take advantage of a truly, amazing sporting experience.
What is the popularity of some of these young? I mean, like you see what Steph Curry has done to the NBA world and the fans world. I mean, everyone's wearing a Curry jersey or something to that effect, or Giannis or LeBron. Who is the face of the fans in regards to the NFL? Is it Patrick Mahomes? Is it Lamar Jackson? Who is that guy?
I don't think there is a guy like that because the NBA is a very player-driven league, right? Like kids these days are LeBron fans. They're not necessarily Jazz fans, right? Like my biggest pet peeve in the world is going to a Jazz game and there's a bunch of kids from the East Bench in Salt Lake that are wearing like Steph Curry jerseys, right? And you're just like, it's atrocious. It's a generational thing, right? So with the NFL, while there are certain people that kids love and that people gravitate towards, like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, it is a much more team-based sport, right? Like in terms of fandom. So I'm a Broncos fan, right? Or I'm a 49ers fan. I don't care who the quarterback is. I'm cheering for the 49ers. Sure. So I think that, we do have young stars, which really contributes to the success of the NFL because you have these guys come from local colleges and people really fall in love with them and they want to cheer for them at the NFL. But once they get to that NFL level, I think they become more a part of the team because football is the ultimate team sport, right? And it just that kind of bleeds into the fandom of the sport. It's more of a team-based fan experience, whereas the NBA is more of a player-driven fan experience, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, and I think another part too is the fundamental differences in how players play the game. In the NBA, they're not wearing shoulder pads and a helmet that obscures their face. And so you see their facial expressions, you hear them talk, you see how they react. In the NFL, it's different. One thing about Mahomes is you always see a lot of replays. He's quick to take his helmet off when he's going to the sidelines so people can see his face and he can get excited. And that's what's so fun to watch about him is you can see his joy, and that's fun. And not a lot of guys do that. I wonder if that may be something that starts to change a little bit, is to focus in more on the face and the players and their reactions.
Yeah, sure. I think player marketing is always evolving, right? These guys want to be brands because it's a good way to make a living for their family. So why not? Why not take your helmet off if you can?
I want to get to our football preview here. I know we got to go to break, and then we'll get into it. I got to get previews and predictions from you, from Ethan, of course, and from Eric, of where things stand, because this might be, not only is it just a unique year, obviously, because of COVID-19, but more balanced than we've seen in quite some time. I mean, the Patriots no longer own the AFC East. They might be the defending champs of the AFC East, but the way the AFC East is built now with Buffalo, Miami looks like they've gotten better. Von Miller is now out for the Broncos. What does that do to the AFC West? Tom Brady goes to the NFC South. What does that do to that division? By what a spicy game that is on Sunday afternoon. Tampa Bay, New Orleans at 2:25 Mountain Time on Fox. By the way, that game will be on this station, on this radio station. So if you're driving around, we will have Tampa Bay and New Orleans on this station, which is going to be pretty dang awesome.
I know where you're going to be.
I will be in my car.
You will be listening.
I will be absolutely in my car listening to 106 on The Fan. So, yeah, we'll get to predictions and previews. I want to hear how Ethan feels like New England's going to make the Super Bowl and why. And then, of course, I got to hear why Eric thinks that Washington football will be in the NFC Championship and why.
Yeah, I don't know about that. All right, more about the NFL. Of course, if you have questions or comments about the upcoming NFL season, questions for Ethan, 435-339-0321 to join us here on the Full Court Press.
The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen, Ethan Dursteler with the NFL joining us. Boy, thanks for hopping on with me yesterday. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. It was quick, but it was sure fun.
Yeah, it was good. Rapid fire.
I love it.
If you missed it, we talked about expanded rosters, injured reserve list, expanded practice squads. That's going to be a big thing, I think, coming into the season with I think it's needed anyway, but especially in an era where you may have guys get sick or they opt out because of COVID, and it gives player safety more important to give the team more options to rotate guys through, so you don't have to try to rush somebody back.
Sure, yeah. I think, like I mentioned yesterday, this was already built in the new CBA. It felt like the CBA was very timely because it provided access to more players. But yeah, like you mentioned, Eric, it's gonna be big in terms of positive tests. There will be positive tests, so it's important to have a deeper roster and just making sure that more guys have an opportunity to make it in the league.
Let's start off here for the 2020-21 season. Who's your most interesting team? Not favorite team, but just most intriguing team for whatever reason that you want to just kind of keep your eyes on.
Most intriguing team. I mean, just based on simple intrigue, can you say anybody but the Bucks? Right? I mean, you got Tom Brady and Gronk coming back. You have Bruce Arians. You have a good defense. You have a lot of new things. So intriguing.
Now you've got Leonard Fournette.
You got Leonard
That's
Fournette.
right. Does he help? Or, he's going to lose carries, isn't he? Tom Brady at the helm with this receiving corps that's pretty hard to ignore.
Yeah, he'll lose carries, but I think that's a good thing for him, right? Like, no running back wants to get the ball 30 times a game and just get destroyed, especially once they're past, 3 or 4 years in their career. So I think it'll be good for him. They have two other good running backs there in Shady McCoy and Rojo, so it'll be interesting to see, just how many carries he gets, but I think they'll be able to use him in, short yardage, third down situations where he needs to punch it across the line. He'll be able to stay more healthy. And when he's playing for the Jaguars, he never really played with a quarterback. He played with Gardner Minshew. He played with Nick Foles. Did he come out and
say something like that, too?
I think he said something.
I've never had a quarterback.
Yeah, he was playing. I think I saw a statistic that on average last season he played against a stacked box, which means there's 8 guys in the box. And the box, for people who don't know, is linebackers and defensive ends. 43.8% of the time that he was on the field. Again, last year the Bucks without Leonard Fournette faced the stacked box only 20% of the time, and that was with Jameis Winston. So when you add an actual quarterback in there and Tom Brady, I think that it will make a huge difference. He'll be running against 6-7 guys rather than 8-9 guys in the box. That makes a big difference when you're a running back.
Eric, what about you?
I think a team that is intriguing to me to watch will be the Rams, the LA Rams.
Yeah.
It just the glow of a new stadium. Last year, they did not come close to hitting expectations from what they had established the year previous. So how do they bounce back? So that's going to be interesting to watch to see what that team looks like, because everybody was in love with McVay and what he was doing there, and then it wasn't really that great. Maybe he got kind of figured out in the postseason, and then last year wasn't as good. So do they rebound? They've made some interesting acquisitions here in the offseason as well. So
did they extend? And they extended Jalen Ramsey, a huge money contract.
Yeah.
High paid. And where are they getting that money from? Because I swear they have already. They're over the cap. If there was the cap, they'd be extremely over.
That's the thing about the Rams is, everybody kind of blamed it on McVay, but he was so hamstrung with the roster last year because the front office gave out these ridiculous extensions to guys.
And they've done it again.
Yeah, and you thought they would have learned their lesson, but then, they come out and they offer a gigantic, extension to Jalen Ramsey, who's already kind of old. So they did the same thing with Aqib Talib a couple years ago. I don't really get why they think that they should just spend money on old guys, because then it hamstrings the roster. There's no depth, and then you end up with what they did with Todd Gurley and Clay Matthews this offseason, where they end up having to buy him out anyways. So, they're intriguing. They have the flashy stadium. They have a great coach. They have a decent young quarterback, some good weapons, but they lack so much depth and spend money in such a way that it kind of makes them less intriguing to me as just as a team. I think that they're gonna have a similar year to last year when they go maybe 8-8, 9-7, competing for that final wild card spot. Which is intriguing. There is an extra wild card spot this year too in both leagues, right? There's an extra playoffs team this year, which I think will make it more exciting and give a few more teams that are kind of on the bubble a chance to compete and fans something to cheer for.
For me, it's going to be Dallas. Mike McCarthy now comes in with the weapons still available of Dak Prescott, of Ezekiel Elliott. You got Gallup, Amari Cooper, and rookie CeeDee Lamb on the offensive side. You still got the Lawrence kid, right? On the defensive side, DeMarcus Lawrence. Is that him?
Yep.
But Jason Garrett could not make anything to do with that talent, which is amazing to me in a really bad NFC East division. So Mike McCarthy, who did a lot of good things in Green Bay but was overshadowed by Aaron Rodgers' moody attitude, is going to be really interesting. If he can get more out of what this talented squad, really talented, and easily the most talented in that division, that team could be an NFC championship contending team. Not saying that they get there, but I think they make a strong push for it as long as McCarthy can get that out of them, their full talent from every single one of those guys.
I think the thing that intrigues me most about the Cowboys this year is, will it be a referendum on Garrett, or will it be on the quarterback?
Yeah, Dak has been really interesting, and again, I don't know. And Kellen Moore has been a really, I would say, almost overrated offensive coordinator. Like, some of his play calling just seems so conservative at such important times, but then he gets aggressive at the wrong times too. And I think sometimes he's trying to show off Dak's arm, but then show off an offensive line. And it's more like, hey, this is my play calling system, and this is how it works, instead of allowing it to wrap around what the talent he's got. I mean, Amari Cooper's incredible. CeeDee Lamb's going to be one of the quickest wide receivers, if not in the slot, that you might have in the NFL. Like, he's got talent. If he would just get out of his own way and quit using his ego and start using the talent, they're unstoppable, especially in the NFC East.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting year for them to determine, was Dak Prescott kind of slowed down because of coaching decisions, or was he not really that good?
Yeah.
A decent quarterback, but not a really good or a great quarterback.
And we know that Mike McCarthy is really good at getting the most out of your quarterback.
Yeah.
So we're going to find out pretty quickly.
It is a really
That's a good point you bring up.
Hire there.
Yeah.
It could be both, though, right? It could be that Dak isn't as good as they've thought, and then it can also be that, like, the Jason Garrett special is just going 8-8 every year. Because he did that long before Dak got there, right? Like 8-8. I remember 8-8, 7-9. Like, that's Jason Garrett's special. He's really good at that. So I think it could be both. I think Dak could be, a little bit less than average of a quarterback, and Jason Garrett could be not a very good head coach. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it will be really interesting because Jason Garrett is still coaching in the NFC East as the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. So maybe we look at the New York Giants offense and see how it compares to the Cowboys offense, and that can help in answering that question. I do think Jason Garrett was stale and not a very good head coach, so I lean that way, but it'll be interesting to see, especially, like I said, with those two in the same division.
So which team, can I ask, unless you wanted to continue?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, which team is getting a lot of attention but is going to fail to meet those expectations?
So that actually runs right in mind. 533A, I texted in, Peter King has picked, Eric, your Miami Dolphins to win the AFC East this year over the Patriots, formerly quarterbacked by Tom Brady.
Because Kyle Van Noy is there. It's the greatest of all.
But he picked the Miami Dolphins to win the AFC East?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Over Buffalo and New England. Here's the thing. New England's a really interesting football team, right? I mean, Cam Newton's coming back, or not coming. He comes off a serious injury, but they've lost a lot of defensive talent. Some of actually, Patrick Chung, one of their defensive captains, has actually opted out for the season. Dante Hightower, same thing. They've lost 2 offensive linemen. One of them opted out for the season, said no way. I think the New England Patriots are going to miserably fail this season. And it's not because of Coach Belichick. It's because of the lack of talent they have on the field. And as good as Julian Edelman is, the former Super Bowl MVP, as good as Cam Newton is, the former NFL MVP, the way the AFC East is built this year, again, Brian Flores on one side, you got a talented Buffalo squad, I believe, in the NFC East as well. The Jets are going to Jets. They're going to suck. They're going to be bad. They will be bad for a while. But I just don't see New England being able to compete with a Buffalo squad, or even, if I dare say, a Miami squad, like many would say they should or could. I have New England as my underestimated, or what was it? Underperforming team of the year. No doubt.
I mean, let's talk their run in the AFC East, though, right? Like, I have some stats written down. No other team has won the AFC East since 2008, and they lost in a tiebreaker to the Dolphins that year, and Tom Brady was injured. The last time that a Brady quarterback team failed to win the AFC East was in 2002. I was 7 years old. Wow. I'm 25 now. So, I mean, put that in perspective. It's 18 years. 18 years.
They were bad that year, too. 10-6.
They were bad. 10. I mean, yeah, but 10-6. I mean, most fan bases would kill to go 10-6. Like, if you could ask the Browns to go 10-6, they'd take that every year, right? So it's just gotten worse, right? So since 2010, the Pats have won the division by an average of 3.8 games, and they have never lost it since 2010 by less than 2 games. So they've just been so far out of the league of all of these teams for so long. I think a lot of that obviously had to do with Brady and the talent that they had there on the defense. Like you said, a lot of that defensive talent is gone. I think that Tom Brady is almost underestimated now in the leader that he is for an organization and the stability he brings. I don't think Miami's going to be very good. I think that they're a year away from being really, really good. But the Bills are pretty good. They have. I don't really believe in Josh Allen, but you look at the weapons that he has around him: Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley. Stephon Diggs and John Brown can take the top off of any defense in the NFL. It doesn't matter who's in the defensive backfield. You're always going to have 2 guys that can take the top off. You have Cole Beasley underneath. You have 2 strong running backs in Devin Singletary and Utah and the University of Utah, Zach Moss. So they have weapons on offense. Sean McDermott is a great defensive coordinator. They have Ed Oliver on that offensive line. I think that this may be the year that the Pats are at least pushed in the AFC East. And the Bills are really good. I think it'll be the Bills, and I have the Bills as my closet AFC contender.
Oh,
I think they're going to be really good.
So who's your underperforming team?
Underperforming? Oh, I mean, every team underperforms every year. Every fan base thinks their team's going to go 10-6. How about the Falcons? I think there's some Falcons buzz out there where people think the Falcons are back. That the 28-3 game kind of wrecked them for 2 years, but this is the year. They just didn't really change anything. Dan Quinn's still there, and while he seems to be really well liked by his players, there just hasn't been a lot of excitement there under his tenure. Julio Jones is getting older. Calvin Ridley had a bad year last year. Matt Ryan also getting older. They lost Devontae Freeman. I don't know who's going to run the ball there. So a lot of people see them challenging the Bucs and the Saints down in the NFC South, but I think they're going to underperform. And by underperform, I mean maybe 9-7, 10-6. I don't think they're going to be awful, but I don't think they're going to be anything special.
But for a team that 2-3 years ago was in the Super Bowl and was one of the most dominating offenses in the league, to all of a sudden to be this, where last 2 years they've been a huge disappointment in a tough division, but still with the talent they have in Matt Ryan and in Julio Jones, right? Still 9-7 isn't what you expect out of that squad, and it shouldn't be what you expect out of them. I think they're maybe one of that last sneaking wild card teams in that new wild card spot this year.
I agree. They're like the perfect candidate, right? Them and the Browns are the perfect 9-7 sneak in with the new wild card candidates in the AFC and NFC. Those two teams, talk about mediocre. Just sneak right in.
Do you remember, before we get to Eric, do you remember, what was it, 6, 7, maybe 8 years ago, back-to-back years, the Falcons were the 1 or 2 seed, and they both lost, and they lost both divisional games in back-to-back years. Lost to the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. I think that's actually the year Aaron Rodgers and that crew went to the Super Bowl and beat the Steelers. So maybe in 2010, and then in 2011, they were like the 2 seed, and then lost again in another home game in the divisional round after having a bye. That team has just been a failure in the playoffs like nobody else. Even though they went to the Super Bowl, had a 28-3 lead, only to blow it to Tom Brady and the Patriots. It's incredible how many ways they have found to lose games that they should have won in the playoffs, especially.
PETA's going to come after me for this, but maybe it's the Michael Vick curse,
Okay, Eric, you better go. Eric, you better go. Oh, man.
All right,
the team, up on my guy.
The team for me that I think could be an underperforming team is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's who I had second on the list, yep.
I'm scratching my head as to why some people think they're going to be so hot. There's a lot of good reasons for it. I get that, but Roethlisberger is an aging quarterback. He hasn't been anywhere near his former self. I think that there's a lot of questions about what they can do offensively. I think they'll be a decent defensive team, but there's other squads in their division. They're going to score a lot more points and are more well-rounded. The Ravens are going to walk away with that division again, I think. But I think that the Steelers are getting some attention as a team that could challenge them and could be a top team in the AFC overall. But I'm just not seeing it. I just think that Ben Roethlisberger is nowhere close to where he used to be, and we're still hanging on to where he was 5, 6, 7 years ago, and he's not that guy.
Imagine,
I'm gonna push back against both you guys a little bit. I
Really?
think the season before last, 3 and 4 years ago, Ben had a tough time. But the season before last, when he threw out his elbow, he was really good. He threw for over 4,500 yards. The Steelers were a good team. He still has some good weapons. I mean, I went all in on Juju this year in fantasy football because I think that Ben Roethlisberger is such an upgrade, even at age 36. From Duck Hodges, who just got cut for Josh Dobbs. I mean, I think it's important to remember that the Steelers were pretty good and almost made the playoffs last year, and their quarterback's name was Duck Hodge, right? So, while maybe they may not be like this, thrilling, exciting team, I don't see any reason why they can't go 10-6. I think that they're going to be better than the Browns. I don't think they'll push the Ravens, but I do think that they'll be good because Ben Roethlisberger, even at half of his talent of what he's been in the past, is a lot better than Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So I had them as one of my surprise teams because I thought a lot of people thought they were going to be worse, as bad as they were last year, but I can see where you're coming from.
ESPN Football Power Index, I love what they do, but they had the offensive ranking projection for the Steelers 21st in the NFL. 21st. And they mainly base it off Ben Roethlisberger alone. I mean, you can look at the receiving corps. You imagine Juju Smith-Schuster and that receiving corps to have a quarterback like Lamar Jackson. That team's nearly unstoppable. Like, they're nearly unbeatable alone. Defense is still hanging around, but that offense with a quarterback who is as mobile and athletic and as quick, I mean, because they benefit so much from a system like that. Like, Ben Roethlisberger was a mobile quarterback and now can barely even, get around the pocket. You're asking him to. It's asking. I'm with Eric. I mean, that's asking a lot out of the Steelers' offense.
I mean, I respect what they did when they had the the running back controversy and how that unfolded, and they were still able to make things work, and it worked out great for them. But I fundamentally just Ben Roethlisberger is not Tom Brady at this stage of his career, and he's not
You don't think
Drew
he's eating
Brees.
Avocado ice cream?
Yeah, he's not Drew Brees.
Might want to try
he
it,
doesn't
though.
take care of his body the same way those guys do, and so I just don't see it. I mean, I think it's a good organization, but I just don't think they're going to be a playoff team.
While we're on the Steelers,
Wow.
quick shout out to Ryan Shazier, who retired today.
Oh, yeah.
Total stud. Had that horrific injury back in 2017. I think it's awesome that he's just walking again.
Keith Philippe just retired today, too, right?
He did, yeah.
He did.
Man, he was
Apparently, Bill Belichick made phone calls to try to
I'm sure he
coax
did.
him to.
I'm
New
so
England.
glad that he's not like. Look, Talib was a good safety, physical as all get out, but he was getting really slow too. I mean, he was getting beat by a lot of younger guys. Like it's time to go. So, yeah.
It's also time for another timeout here on the Full Court Press. So let's take it now. Continuing to talk about the upcoming NFL season. It kicks off tomorrow night when the Kansas City Chiefs face the Houston Texans.
24-0.
Should be, I don't know, will it be an interesting showdown or will it just be a showcase for the Chiefs? And the rest of everybody else gets underway on Sunday. We'll talk about more of the NFL upcoming season next on the Full Court Press.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen, Ethan Dursteler joining us. He works for the NFL, and the NFL gets started tomorrow. Kansas City Chiefs, Houston Texans. Will this just be a showcase for the Kansas City Chiefs in their defense of their Super Bowl title, or will this be an interesting showdown between young, dynamic quarterbacks? And
I think we're making way too much of the Chiefs. Like, they were down 24-0 to this same Houston Texans team, minus DeAndre Hopkins now this year. And Bill O'Brien, as Ethan kind of said it off air, I love what he said. He's killed this team. He ruined it last year. I mean, on 4th and 1 on the plus side of the field, he decides to kick a field goal, if I'm not mistaken? I can't remember if he decided to kick a field goal, and he didn't go for it, though. And so they go up 24-0 instead of being up 28-0. And here comes Kansas City. Like, they feel like that's all the momentum they needed. It's just stopping Houston once out of the end zone, and they were good to go. And then all of a sudden, Kansas City ran away with it. But I still, J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson, I still feel like this team can make a run at it. I don't know if they are AFC contenders, but I mean, this game is going to be a blowout that I think the two of you see.
No, I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think the Chiefs will win pretty handily. I think Bill O'Brien's a decent coach, but I don't get why he's still the GM of the Texans. He's done some really weird things. He gave Laramie Tunsil, who's like a fine left tackle, $22 million a year. He traded one of the best receivers in the game for an aging and overrated David Johnson. He's continually made really weird personnel decisions. And while you say that this is the same Houston Texans team minus DeAndre Hopkins, that's a huge minus. Yeah. I mean, you replace DeAndre Hopkins with I mean, that's like this is a full court press without Ajay Salvesen. Like, it's just a huge.
That is a huge loss.
It's a huge loss.
I am DeAndre
right?
Hopkins.
It's
Bill
subtraction.
I mean, it's a big loss. I don't know. I really love Deshaun Watson. I'm a big Deshaun Watson believer. Really pumped that he got that big contract. But the team in Kansas City is just so much better than the team in Houston. I don't think Houston's going to be good. I don't know. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
I just don't like the whole dynasty thing. Like Seattle Seahawks, I mean, they beat the Broncos by how much in the Super Bowl, and everyone's like, oh, here comes this dynasty. Then they lost the next year's Super Bowl.
I don't think
they
that's
haven't
the
been
Chiefs'
to a
fault,
Super Bowl
though,
since.
right? Like, that's the media's fault. Like, I don't think the Chiefs are coming. Like, I don't think Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes
I
or
swear,
Travis
everywhere
Kelce
I
are going
read,
out
they're
there
like,
being
is this a dynasty? Back-to-back years, Patrick Mahomes, will he be the MVP?
Sure,
Back-to-back years.
But again, that's not the Chiefs' fault. That's the media's fault. Like, the Chiefs, I don't think Andy Reid's going out there and being like, call us a dynasty. Here we are. We've arrived. I mean, that's the media. That's like, the media just likes to talk about stupid things, right? They want to be like, oh, who is this team a dynasty? Because they have nothing else to talk about because we're in the midst of a pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's the Chiefs' fault. I think they're a really well-run organization. I think they have really good pieces. And while maybe not, I agree with you that it's way too early to start talking about the dynasty. I mean, I think they're the best team in the NFL this season by quite a large margin.
Okay, so that I think gets to our point. Like, who's going to contend? Is somebody going to knock? Is it going to be Kansas City? And if not, then who? And who's going to pose the biggest threat to the Chiefs?
In the AFC?
Yeah, let's start with the AFC before we get into the NFC.
Oh, man.
I mean, so if you just look at the conference odds listed on Action Network, I mean, you got the Chiefs at plus 200. You have the Ravens at plus 250. Then they have the Steelers, the Colts, the Bills, the Raiders. I don't know why the Steelers and the Colts are so high. I guess there's a lot of people that still are big on Phillip Rivers, and I spent the last segment defending the Steelers. Now I'm going to say I don't think that they are an AFC contender. I think that the Bills and the Ravens, obviously the Ravens, you can see off Lamar, it is really the same exact team that's even a bit better, strengthened offensive line, better defensive backfield, bigger linebackers. I think the Ravens and the Bills are the two teams that are going to challenge in the AFC, challenge the Chiefs for that AFC championship.
I think Tennessee Titans are going to be a good football team again. I don't expect Ryan Tannehill to have those same outwardly, off the Ryan Tannehill chart numbers that he had last year, especially in the postseason. But I think they've got a balanced attack, especially with Derrick Henry in the backfield. Now you pick up Clowney on the defensive side of the ball. Mike Vrabel is a defensive menace, absolute defensive menace. And I always believe that while offense will win you games, defense wins you championships. I like the Tennessee Titans giving Kansas City all they can handle. I think Baltimore is going to be a good football team. Obviously, can't leave them out with what they have, but I think defensively minded Mike Vrabel squad in Tennessee is going to be really, really big.
I think that the Chiefs still come out of the AFC. They're well-rounded. They've got a lot of momentum, a lot of confidence on their side. Great coach. I think the Ravens are going to give them a run for their money, though. I think it's going to come really close because they've got a lot of their guys back. The reigning MVP, regular season MVP. I think that's going to be a really fun back and forth to see how that plays out throughout the rest of the year. But I think that there are a couple teams that could be interesting in the AFC. I think the Patriots could be an interesting team. I think Belichick is a great coach. As much as I like to tease Ajay and back on them, I think he is a very sound coach, and I think they're going to make some interesting moves that will surprise some people. I, like Ajay, think the Titans could be a very interesting team. We saw what they did. They surprised some teams in the playoffs, and they're just going to build
on Baltimore.
Yeah, so that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. I think my sleeper, the Bills. I think that's a team that's building. I think Josh Allen is an okay quarterback, but I think they've also done some things around him to make that a really, really interesting team.
Do you
Yeah,
think,
I
did you
agree.
say they were going to win the AFC East, by the way, the Bills?
I think the Bills win the AFC
Okay.
East, and I think that
I'm with you guys on
that if Cam Newton goes to the Bills rather than the Patriots, that they really challenge in the AFC. Like you, Eric, I think he's a fine quarterback, but I think that they, outside of the Chiefs and the Ravens, have the best offensive weapons and the strongest defense in the AFC. I mean, I think their defense, Sean McDermott, is extraordinarily underrated. Their defense is always so good. Even the Patriots always have a tough time winning there, no matter who the quarterback is, no matter what year it is. I really believe in the Bills. I think that they're going to really surprise a lot of people and at least give those top teams in the AFC a push.
All right, well, let's go to the NFC. What are the teams that are going to challenge to make it to the Super Bowl out of the NFC this year?
So what? San Francisco was the team last year, right? In the
Yeah,
Super Bowl.
49ers.
I think that was I'm not going to call it a fluke, but I don't think you're seeing that this year. I think you see San Francisco as a 10-6 football team, maybe 11. I don't know. It's the NFC, that division, the NFC West, is a lot tougher than people make it. And
I think the NFC West is the funnest division in football.
I mean, now you got Kyler Murray, DeAndre
great
Hopkins, and
teams.
Larry Fitzgerald on the offensive side of the ball
Goes
in
deep.
Arizona, and that is just absolute lethal to me. I still like New Orleans Saints, though. Man, that's a well-rounded coach team. I think Sean Payton's a great coach. I think with Drew Brees there, I know the Alvin Kamara situation's a little bit touchy and it's sensitive right now over there in Louisiana, but boy, they have a defense that is a bend but not break defense, and I think again offensively, Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara. I don't know if Michael Thomas is over there.
Are you going to go without mentioning your boy Taysom Hill?
Well, I mean, look, everybody knows Taysom Hill is the key that drives the engine that drives this Saints team, and I don't need to mention him.
Boy.
You need to mention role players like Drew Brees. You need to mention role players like Alvin Kamara,
Role
Michael
players.
Thomas. Everybody, I mean, you're gonna mention Tampa Bay, but you already know what Tom Brady is to Tampa Bay. Taysom Hill is to the New Orleans Saints.
Okay.
All right.
I got the New Orleans Saints coming out of the NFC.
I think the NFC's tough. Unlike Ajay, I think the 49ers are really good, but I think that they're dragged down similar to the Bills by an average quarterback.
What makes you think that they're really good?
Well, the fact that they were in the Super Bowl
Outstanding
last year and
defense.
almost won it. The fact that they had more sacks, more pressures, more interceptions
They were
than any
okay,
team last
sure,
year.
but I mean,
Their defense was the best defense in the NFL last year.
Sure.
Far
They
and away.
outplayed Kansas City for 3 of the 4 quarters in the Super Bowl.
I mean, they have a better quarterback. They're the Super Bowl champions. Easy, right? I mean,
they have a better quarterback.
if they had a better
Oh,
quarterback.
no. That's what I meant to.
No.
say.
If they had a better quarterback, they're probably Super Bowl
If they had
champions.
Jimmy Garoppolo's not a good quarterback.
No, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Are you kidding me?
Maybe
I know we
top
had this.
20.
We had this conversation already once, didn't we?
Have you watched him play?
Oh my gosh.
He's trash, man.
Oh,
He's not
he's
good.
trash?
Yeah, he's like
Really?
He's like
so
a
that
game
record that they
manager
had
at
at the
best.
oh my heavens! How many game-winning drives did he have last year?
None. He
Yes,
didn't
he
have
did.
a game-winning
Yes,
drive
he
last
did.
year. No,
Yes, he did.
He threw
He had
8 passes in the NFC Championship game. 8 passes.
Did you need to throw any more?
I mean, it's the NFL in 2020. You usually throw the ball.
Was sorry that we went back to the 1990s with a running game. I apologize that we didn't, turn to your agenda that you
Kyle Shanahan
that you
does
didn't want
not
to watch a ball game.
My hold back on the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan clearly does not believe in the 49ers. Last year in the Super Bowl when they needed to throw it, he didn't throw it because Jimmy G can't.
That wasn't why he didn't throw it. It's because Kyle Shanahan gets in his own way.
He overthrew
no,
4
that's
receivers
not right.
in the end zone.
No, that's
Look,
horrible.
man, I was at the Super Bowl. I watched
Congratulations.
Jimmy G overthrow.
I watched it on a
I watched him
15-inch TV.
overthrow
No,
4
that's
receivers
horrible.
in the end zone.
Devontae Freeman with Atlanta when Kyle Shanahan, by the way, was the offensive coordinator, and they were supposed to what? Run it? And they decided to throw it? And they
Jimmy
had the
G
best
is an
back
average
and Devontae
quarterback.
Freeman, and they couldn't
Jimmy
stop
G
him.
is an average quarterback.
So don't tell me
Most
it's Jimmy
people-
G. It's Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan's one of the best offensive
No,
coordinators in the
he's
NFL.
not.
Yes,
Holy
he is.
Nikes, I'm going to swear.
He's one of the best
swear to
offensive
life.
coordinators in the NFL.
All right,
If
we're
you
running out
think-
of time. Any other contenders from the NFC for you?
God.
I don't know. Like I said, I can't go all in on the 49ers. I can't go in on the Saints. I'm not really a believer in the Cowboys. I think the Seahawks are really good, so maybe I'll say they're my sleeper
Here's the thing
pick.
with the Seahawks is that their defensive rating has went down since the Super Bowl, right? Since 2013, their offensive rating has went down dramatically. It went from first and 13 to like third, right? And then fourth and then fifth, and then took a huge drop off a cliff.
I wouldn't say it took a drop off a
Yes,
cliff.
they did.
I mean,
Yes,
they're still
they-
in the top 15 defenses.
No, I think they were 20th last year. 20th, right?
They were top 15. And Jimmy G was 20th
Again.
ranked quarterback.
And remember, Bobby Wagner is on that same defense that took a huge drop off.
I mean, they're
Imagine
what they'd
still
be
in the
without
top
him.
half.
Sucks when you don't have the help around you.
For me, my contenders in the NFC, I I think that this is going to be really interesting because I think we have a couple of situations where it's the last stand for some of these guys. Drew Brees in New Orleans. I think it's a kind of a last stand for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I think that they're going to, maybe not necessarily a last stand for Rodgers, but some of these guys are aging quarterbacks that need one big last push to solidify their chance at a ring. And I think those two guys are going to be Hall of Famers, but I think that that's going to be a really interesting battle between those two guys. And I also think that the 49ers will still be in the hunt because of the strength of their defense, because of the strength of their solid running game. They're going to give themselves a lot of opportunities to win games and to be in a lot of games. I think a team that could be surprising, or maybe not surprising, but a team that could continue to do well is the Seahawks. I think they are ahead of schedule where they were. They kind of did a rebuild with some of their key positions, and they're doing better. And I think they've made a big commitment to their quarterback, and they're going to make some interesting moves this year. I think they're going to be in the hunt. I think they're going to improving their defense as well. So
I mean, they traded for Jamal Adams, who's an elite safety. So that will definitely bolster their defense.
Yes, that's right. From New York, right?
Yeah, which was ranked 11th last year, by the way.
So I think it's going to be fun to see how this NFL season plays out. Without fans, well, at least a diminished fan base that's going to be allowed, it's going to be intriguing to see how it continues to play out. And hopefully all games get played and we don't have delays or cancellations. But anyway, that's going to do it for us tonight. The NFL starts tomorrow. Kansas City and Houston. We'll see how it all plays out tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.
Sunday on Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. It's a Week 1 showdown in the NFC South as Drew Brees and the Saints host Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hi, this is Jeff Biggs. Join Bill Rosinski, Chad Brown, and me for all the action as Tom Brady makes his Bucs debut in the Superdome against the reigning NFC South champs. It's the Saints and Buccaneers in Week 1 action. If it's the NFL, it's right here.
Pre-game begins at 1:45 with kickoff at 2. Sunday on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.